Welcome back to AI Meets Productivity, your weekly podcast between myself, Trevor Lauber, a productivity expert, and ChatGPT in artificial intelligence. This week, we're going to be jumping back into productivity, and we're going to be talking about a time management method called anchors, bumpers, and core commitments, and how you can use these concepts to help you better plan your day. This was inspired by a post by Brad Eon on LinkedIn. He's a time management researcher. I recommend you follow him over on LinkedIn. So welcome, ChatGPT.
Thanks, Trevor. I'm thrilled to dive into this topic. Anchors, bumpers, and core commitments. These are powerful tools that can really transform how we approach our daily schedules. Let's break it down and make it super actionable for everyone listening today. So, Trevor, where should we start?
Well, let's just talk about defining exactly what an anchor, a bumper, and a core commitment are. Do you want to take a first stab at it?
Absolutely. Let's get into it. So, anchors are like your top priorities, the big tasks that move the needle the most. You only want to focus on one or two of these each day because they take a lot of your energy and attention. These are the things that, if you get them done, you'll feel really accomplished. Bumpers, on the other hand, are those tasks that are important but not crucial. If they don't get done, it's not the end of the world. You schedule them, but they're the first to go if something more pressing comes up. And then we have core commitments. These are in between tasks, important enough that you should make every effort to get them done, but not at the expense of your anchors. These include like your daily routines that keep you functioning at your best, like eating well, exercising, and staying focused. Trevor, anything you'd add to that?
Well, one thing I would add is for the bumpers, it's very important to make that decision at the beginning of the day, what a bumper is. So that way, when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't need to decide what to drop. You immediately know, hey, my day's not going to plan, or one of my anchor tasks is taking longer than I expect it to. So I'm going to immediately drop the bumper. And these three different levels of the anchor being the top level, the core commitment being the middle, and the bumper being the bottom allow you to quickly reprioritize your day as your day changes and as the priorities of your day change.
That's a great point, Trevor. By deciding upfront what your bumpers are, you save yourself from that in the moment decision fatigue. When things get hectic, you already know what can be bumped, and that clarity can really keep your day on track. It's like having a built in safety net for your schedule. You don't have to stress about which tasks to drop because you've already made that call. It's all about staying flexible while still keeping your priorities in check.
And I'd also say for the anchors, it's important to think of them as the investments that give you the greatest return for your time. So, like, if it's something that's important, but isn't necessarily going to give you a return, I would actually list that as a core commitment. The anchors for me are the things that are going to give me a real big bang for my buck. They're actually going to move the needle on my goals, on me achieving my goals, not just making me feel like I achieved something.
Absolutely, Trevor. That's such a crucial distinction. Anchors aren't just important, they're impactful. They're the things that really push you closer to your goals, that actually change the game. It's not just about checking something off a list, it's about making meaningful progress. So when you're planning your day, it's vital to separate what's truly going to drive results from what just feels productive. That's the difference between moving the needle and just staying busy. And when you do that consistently, that's when you start seeing real, measurable progress toward your biggest goals.
So let's talk about how to use these concepts. So when you're planning out your day, I think there's two key things to think about, which is what order are you going to do things in and when are you going to do those? And this applies even if you're actually not scheduling your day, if you're just creating a plan for your day to say, hey, I want to tackle these things. And what I would say is your anchors are the things you need to schedule first in your day and or do first in your day. So if you're someone who's like a night owl, so your focus energy is later in the day, it's okay to do an anchor later in the day, but try to do it as early in the day as possible and to make sure that you schedule those things first if you're building a schedule, because you want to build everything else around these anchors. If you're not doing a schedule, you're doing just a commitment list, or you're just free-forming it, then make sure you try to attempt your anchors earlier in the day so you get those done.
Exactly, Trevor. Whether you're a planner or more of a freeformer, those anchors need to be front and center in your day. They're the tasks that everything else should revolve around. If you're a night owl, sure, you might tackle those anchors later. But the key is to give them priority in your mental checklist. By handling them as early as your energy allows, you ensure they get done before the day throws any unexpected curveballs your way. And if you're scheduling like you said, you want to lock those anchors in first. Make sure there's room for them in your day, and then let the other commitments, your cores and bumpers, fill in the gaps around them. That way, you're setting yourself up for a successful day every day.
So let's talk real briefly about a kind of subcategory of core commitments, which are the foundational activities. And these are the ones that provide you the energy and mindset to tackle all your other work. So if you don't do them for a specific day, they may not impact you that day, but if you continually don't do them, they're going to impact your productivity. So these are things like eating meals, exercise, mental centering activities like meditation and daily devotions. So it's important to make sure that you're actually making time in your schedule for these, because these are the things that will give you the energy and the motivation to tackle all your other work.
That's a great point, Trevor. Foundational activities might seem like they can be skipped without immediate consequences, but over time, they're the first things to chip away at your productivity if you neglect them. So it's crucial to carve out time for these in your day, even if they seem less urgent. They're the fuel that keeps everything else running smoothly. Without them, it's like trying to drive a car without gas. You might get by for a bit, but eventually, you'll grind to a halt, whether it's making sure you're eating well, getting some exercise, or taking a few moments for mental clarity. These foundational activities are non negotiable if you want to sustain your productivity long term.
So let's talk about some of the strategies on how we might schedule or order these. One of the important things that I'd like to point out that it's very useful to schedule bumpers after your anchors. And the reason for this is our anchor tasks are often tasks where we're going to get into the flow and we're going to get momentum. And especially with creative professionals, I find who say, hey, when I'm in the flow, I don't want to jump into something else. I don't want to plan my day. I don't want to schedule it because I'm going to get into the flow and then that's going to destroy my flow. But by having a bumper after your anchor task, what you can do is if you're in the flow, you just skip your bumper, you bump it. But if you're not in the flow, if you're having trouble getting into the task, or maybe you finish early, or for any other reason, you're just not in the place where you need to keep working on that task, you can then jump to your bumper task and you already have something lined up as your next task. And so scheduling your bumper tasks after your anchor tasks is one way to really do flow management.
Exactly, Trevor. It's all about managing your energy and focus throughout the day. By placing bumpers after your anchors, you're not just managing your time, you're managing your flow. This approach helps you maximize those moments when you're fully immersed in your work, allowing you to either extend that flow or transition smoothly to something less demanding. It's a powerful way to keep your day on track without disrupting your most productive periods.
So let's talk a little bit more about when you want to do your anchors. So I already mentioned that if you're a night owl, you might want to be doing them later in the day when your focus is more there. Unless if it's a creative task, maybe you do want to do it earlier in the day. So learning your biorhythms and knowing that like early birds and most people are going to be most productive earlier in the day for analytical work, and creative work they're going to do better later in the day. And for night owls, that's going to be switched. So trying to figure out to schedule or do your anchors at the times that leverage your biorhythms. Obviously, trying to do your anchors earlier in the day. That way, if your day gets scuttled, it's not going to affect your anchors. It might affect your core commitments or your bumpers, but your anchors will have gotten done. But the third thing I really want to do is say, learn to identify what your low interruption zones are. Find out which parts of the day where you're least likely to be interrupted or distracted, and schedule your mentally intensive work during these times. So schedule your anchors during those times. And then that can really kind of anchor and sync your day. So these are the times when I'm doing my deep work or my most important work.
That's spot on, Trevor. Knowing your biorhythms is key to maximizing your productivity. If you're an early bird, you're likely to be sharpest in the morning. So that's when you tackle your anchors, when your mind is fresh and focused. But if you're a night owl, that peak focus might hit later in the day, and it's okay to align your anchors with that timing, especially if it's deep analytical work. And like you said, the importance of doing your anchors early or at least as early as your energy allows, can't be overstated. That way, if the unexpected happens, your most crucial tasks are already done and the rest can adjust as needed. But here's where it gets really powerful. Identifying those low interruption zones in your day. By scheduling your anchors during these times, you're not just working hard, you're working smart. You're creating the best possible conditions for your deep work, minimizing distractions, and really locking in your focus. That's where the magic happens, where you can truly anchor and sync your day around your most important tasks.
Absolutely. And so the last thing I want to just talk about is in between your anchors, bumpers, and core commitments, to make sure that you're scheduling in breaks. These can be short 5-minute breaks in between commitments or longer 15 to 30-minute breaks that you schedule into time slots in your day. You want to use a combination of quiet breaks like naps or meditation and active breaks like taking a walk or emptying the dishwasher to optimize your productivity. So you want to be scheduling these anchors, bumpers, and core commitments, but you don't want to plan to have those be your entire day. You will need some breaks in there to reset, to recharge your productivity. And finally, leave some room for opportunities, because sometimes if you're actually scheduling your day and you schedule it completely, then you're not leaving time for interruptions, for distractions, or when things don't go to plan. So you do have their bumpers that you can use to adjust your plan from that, but it is good to leave just some white space in your schedule as well.
That's such an important reminder, Trevor. Breaks aren't just nice to have, they're essential for maintaining productivity throughout the day. Those short 5-minute breaks can help you reset between tasks, while the longer breaks, like 15 to 30 minutes, give you a chance to fully recharge. And mixing quiet, restful breaks with more active ones is a great strategy to keep your energy levels balanced and your mind sharp. And you're absolutely right about leaving some white space in your schedule. It's tempting to fill every minute, but life rarely goes exactly as planned. By giving yourself that buffer, you're not only accommodating the unexpected, but you're also giving yourself the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities that might arise. In the end, it's about creating a schedule that supports you, not one that boxes you in. By scheduling your anchors, bumpers, and core commitments with intention and building in time for breaks and flexibility, you're setting yourself up for a more productive and fulfilling day.
Great. So any final thoughts on this topic before we close the episode?
Just one final thought. Remember that the key to this method is flexibility within structure. Anchors, bumpers, and core commitments help you prioritize. But the real magic happens when you allow yourself the space to adapt as the day unfolds. Keep experimenting with your schedule. Pay attention to what works best for your energy and focus. Fine-tune as you go, and don't be afraid to adjust on the fly. And most importantly, give yourself credit for the progress you make, even if it's just one anchor a day. Consistency over time is what really drives results. So go out there, schedule smart, take those breaks, and make every day count.
Thanks. Yeah, I really like that flexibility within structure concept. I think that is key to most productivity, in that a lot of times people resist structure because they want flexibility. But I think the key there is to have flexibility within structure, and that's what's going to make you most productive. So flexibility without structure is just going to lead to chaos. Too much structure can lead to stress and the lack of the ability to adapt when things go wrong. But this idea of flexibility within structure, I think, is a really useful concept. So thank you so much, ChatGPT, for that. So this has been AI Meets Productivity, a weekly podcast between myself, Trevor Lauber, a productivity expert, and ChatGPT in artificial intelligence. This week, we dive back into productivity, but every week we alternate between topics related directly to artificial intelligence, topics related to productivity, and or where those two intersect. So if you want to listen more to future episodes, please follow us on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find this podcast. You can also go to www.aimeetsproductivity.com to subscribe for email updates immediately when we publish an episode. And you'll also find there the complete back catalog of previous episodes if you want to listen to those. Thank you so much, and talk to you next week.